Hello, everyone. Hello, Lagos. Hello, Nigeria. And from wherever you may be watching this live stream this beautiful Saturday afternoon, it's a pleasure to have you online and to join us to have this conversation today. Today, we're going to be discussing critical business matrices that you, as a business founder, as a business manager, should be looking at in order to optimize and maximize 2025. For most of us, we've had a wonderful 2024, and we want to see growth, significant growth, and a big difference in what we've achieved in 2024, in 2025. And we would like to be discussing, we would like to discuss what we should look at, remind you of things you already know, and possibly have you consider how to do things a little different in 2025. My name is Damilola Obidara. I'm CEO at 8 Hub. And today I'll be having someone very, very special and dear to our heart who will be joining me in doing justice to the conversation. I will be bringing upstream right now Omolara Garba. She's an independent consultant and a business professional with a legal background, but she's not suing anyone today, and we're not looking at the criminal justice system. If you understand, if you know, you know. All right. So today, she's going to be leading the conversation. Good afternoon, Omolara. You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Damilola.
Yes, sir. I don't know if you have a few words before we just delve right into the slides.
I'm very excited to be here, and that's because I think this is the best time to actually talk about business metrics. The year is rounding up, and a lot of business owners are trying to check their books, they're trying to put things together. And in fact, some other people have another kind of business circle that their businesses actually start in December, interestingly. So everyone is critical to this session, and that's why I'm happy to be here so we can share thoughts, have a conversation around how you have been doing things, how we should do things in 2025, and then so we can start to achieve results. So let me start
Thank you
talking
very
now.
much. You're going to get right into it.
I've already
Just to
started.
let everyone on this session know that despite the fact that we're not having your voice in, it's going to be interactive, and we want to hear you. We want to hear you speak to us. So please use the comment section, whether you're joining us on LinkedIn or on YouTube. Please use the comment section to let's start with a simple introduction. Very big thank you to Abdurrahman Adamu, who's joining us all the way from Qatar. Thank you very much for joining. We see you. Please, if you are listening in, we're happy to just a little introduction, your name, if you want to tell us the name of your business, and then your location. We'll be happy to have this engagement with you as we go on. So I'm going to slide back into the background and let Omolara take us in the next 20 minutes on what she has for us. Omolara, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you so much, Dami. So we'll go straight to the point because, like Dami said, this is going to be a very interactive session because it's not just about telling you what to do based on experience and strategies that work, but also you able to assimilate and practicalize whatever you have done in the past and try to implement new things. Okay, so I'm going to challenge your thoughts a lot in a few minutes that I have. So be ready to be challenged and be ready to just have an open mind. Okay, so for me, we'll just go straight to how do you set goals and plan for your business? Okay, so many people have attended a lot of goal setting classes, and you're already used to SMART, or make it specific, measurable. In fact, if they wake you up from sleep, you can actually explain that. But I'm going to add a twist to that. And what we will be doing right now is to apply the 80-20 rule to goal setting. I'm not going to stop you from using the regular SMART that you already know, SMART, and you can do it anywhere. But I'm going to challenge you to begin to look at goal setting in a different way. So what does the 80-20 rule mean? Many of us know this, but for the benefit of people who are just hearing about it, it's called a Pareto principle. It can be applied to anything. It can be applied to life, finances, family, business, even to spiritual things if you want to go that line. So for business purposes, what we're going to do, if you have your pen and paper where you are, is I want you to analyze your past performance. Okay, so you can say, oh, you want me to analyze a whole 1 year calendar in 1 minute? Yes. So what do I mean by analyzing? Analyze the activity, review the projects, the activities, the initiatives, the product that you launched in the last 1 year, or in the last 2 years, or in the last 3 years. Okay. If you are just starting a new business in the last few months or few weeks, just analyze whichever activity you have done. Okay. So the first thing is, before you go that deep, first of all, identify, okay, which of this activity, okay, 20% of it that generated the 80% result. Let me explain that. So what I mean is that, what are the things that you did in your business that generated the best result for you? Let me give you an example. For a business owner who wanted to increase sales, for example, after analyzing your past performance, you realize that 20% of the marketing you did, okay, generated 80% sales or revenue for you. So maybe there's so many marketing channels that you use, social media, Google Ads, one-on-one, billboard. Just list all of them. Then check which of those channels actually generated the highest revenue. If revenue is your key performance indicator, or highest number of customers, there are some businesses that they thrive more on customer acquisition, Dami will be talking about that later, than actually the numbers that we see. So you will know what are your indicators, okay? Then look at what generated the highest revenue, or highest number of customer, or highest number of visibility or brand performance for you. Once you have been able to identify that, that's all you need for the next for next year. Believe me, if you're able to identify that, okay, the social media marketing I did, or the one-on-one marketing we did, or the billboard marketing we did, or the television marketing we did was what generated 1 billion revenue for us, then that is your 20%. So the next thing you have to do quickly, without wasting your time, is to identify and focus on that high impact activity. So there's several activities you will get involved in as business owners. Several activities. Some add to your bottom line, some will not add to your bottom line, but you just see yourself doing it. But if you apply, once you identify this, and then you are able to apply this rule, then it will help you to focus. So you're not just running around every activity and trying to make a show that you're doing something, but you are actually making significant progress to your bottom line as a business owner, okay? The reason why I'm spending so much time on the 80-20 rule is that That is the base, that will be the basis of your goal setting and planning for 2025. This is an exercise you need to confidently and spend time doing. So you can put all your business indices in one place, customer acquisition, brand visibility, revenue stream. You can put all of that in one sheet and then try to look at the activities, then look at what generated the highest for you. Once you break it down, then you can apply the rules. So all the goals that you will be setting for yourself in 2025, you ensure that it aligns with the 20% that you have identified for your business. So what you identify for your business as somebody in fashion sector, may be different from somebody in entertainment or somebody in the food business or somebody in the energy business. Okay, so the real exercise is identify the 20% activities that generate the highest revenue for you, or the highest customer acquisition for you, or the highest brand visibility for you. That is where the work is. Okay, once you have done that, you can set the goals that align, you can focus on the most critical, and then you can now break down your goals into smaller and manageable tasks that will align with all that you have identified as your 20%. Okay, and then once you have been able to break down into manageable tasks, you can now allocate the right resources. Okay, so you are not just waking up 2025 and say, oh, our company, we need to employ more people. The question is why? How did you arrive at that? If you are not able to go step by step with these activities, you will not be able to make data-driven decision. And data is very critical. I hear people say many things and say, oh, so many people are doing this. And I cringe, because the question I always ask, don't say so many. What is the percentage of the people doing this? Okay, so all of these exercises will help you to be able to allocate the right resources, the right finances, the right people, and the right activities to your goals. I can tell you for free that if you engage yourself in these activities, you will have the smoothest 2025, you will have the best performing 2025. In fact, your revenue goals will be far cry from what you will achieve in 2025. Okay, so next is, once you do that, some of these things can take you 2-3 days. So once you do that, then the next thing I always want to share is strategic planning. So don't just plan, be strategic with your planning. One thing I've learned in my 20 years experience in financial service industry and consulting is that strategic planning is what gives results. Really, a lot of people are planning, oh, it's a new year, it's a financial year. But how strategic is your planning? There are two resources that I work with. So I will not say this is better than this, but I will say to you, like the good book will say, I present to you life and death. Choose life that you may live. But there is SWOT analysis. If you have not heard of SWOT, SWOT, it means strength, opportunities, aspirations, and results. And there is SWOT. SWOT seems to be the most popular these days. But SWOT is also an analysis that helps you to plan strategically. Because what that does is able to tell you where you are presently and is able to give you an aspiration for the future. And then you can actually break down into results that is expected. So when you see opportunities and then you see threats. So the only difference, there's so many difference between sow and sort. So what you will see is that what is threat to you in a SWOT analysis may actually be an opportunity for you to aspire under a SOAR analysis. Okay, so if you can use those two analytical tools and compare for your business, then you'll be able to have a clearer picture of what is going on. Okay, and that picture will help you to make informed decisions. Okay, so these are very deep analysis that will not just show you the revenue part of your business, to talk about your staffing, to talk about your product development, and everything around your business. So once you're able to identify all of these things through this analysis, you're able to sit down and have a clear picture of what you are supposed to do in 2025. Not forgetting the 20% that you have identified from the start. Okay? So the next thing is tools for effective planning. There's so many tools you can use, but in my experience, the two tools that I find very user-friendly is business model canvas and strategic roadmaps. Some of you have seen the business model canvas before. It's, for me, I say it's more than a visual tool that helps you to define or understand your business model or your key partners, value propositions, and all of that. For me, it's a live document. So in the beginning of my business, I had a business model canvas. And every half yearly, I look at it again because a lot of changes may have occurred. Key partners may have changed, revenue streams may have increased or may have dropped, and then a lot of things happen. So a business model canvas is not just something you feel and then you drop in your file. It's something that if it's every quarter that's convenient for you, you should go back and look at it. And then it refreshes you to see that either your business is doing well or your business is not doing well. And it helps you to make changes that you need to make. So for example, if based on your customer base, your key partners, the resources that you think you have, or the resources that you got over the year, your revenue stream has become lower than what you expected, your business model canvas will show you that. Okay, it's a very good tool for strategic planning. The next thing is the roadmap. Okay, so what the roadmap does for you is it takes you back to the 20% that you identified as your critical activity that generated 80% for you. So what that does is once you identify those 20%, it might be 4 indices, it might be 10 indices, it might be 20 indices, depending on how large or big your business is. Then you are able to say to yourself, how do I want to navigate the new year? Because the roadmap will show you clearly, based on the 20% you have identified, where the critical and high impact activities should focus on. And then it gives you a roadmap. And then business becomes easy in the sense that you know where you're going, you know how to get there, and you're asking yourself critical questions. It's from your roadmap that you even identify whether you need a collaboration or not, or whether you need a further strategic partnership or not, whether you need to go global or not. So the roadmap is very critical, and it helps you to identify those gaps and then opportunity for you to grow your business. So these are tools that are critical for business growth and to identify the metrics that you need to use. All of that, Dami is going to talk about the customer acquisition and all of that in a few minutes. So I just wanted you to know that the first step is goal setting. Use the 20/80 rule. Once you identify that, and then the next step is applying the rule, then analyzing where you're supposed to be, then you use the tools that you need. For me, I've identified that my most user-friendly tools are the business model canvas and the roadmap. So the roadmap is just like you want to go somewhere and you need a GPRS, it leads you directly to the destination that you have put there. That's why it takes you back to your 20%. And that 20% becomes like the foundation of everything that you do. Okay, so that's basically it. If you see that last place, I put the key performance indicator. I just picked two because depending on your business, you'll be able to know what is key. But financial metrics is very key for most business. So you need to track your revenue growth, profit margins, and other indicators. And if those are the things you need to track, then you need to go back to your 20% again. Can you see that this 20% keeps coming back to know which activities actually generated the highest revenue for you for the year? Okay, once you do that, it will cascade down to customer acquisition and customer retention. And once you're able to understand all of that, because the bedrock of any business, whether you're in the service industry or you're in the product industry, is customer retention, customer loyalty. Everything customer is critical. Okay, so having said that, once you're able to do all of this, identify, apply, and analyze the 80-20 rules, you set your goals around them, then your next step is to develop a detailed action plan based on all of this. And then that plan should include specific actions, timelines, and I beg you, have an accountability system in place. Most business people, they just run beginning of the year, they run through the year without anything to track their performance and their growth. Have an accountability system and then align resources required to achieve your goals. Okay, thank you. Dami is going to take over from here and then we can have questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Lara. That was quite insightful. Wow, right? And it also opened my eyes to some of the things that we also, even at 8 Gear, can actually make some changes to. It's quite interesting to know that you cannot always copy and paste because someone has done something and you're not speaking with numbers, you're not measuring, and you're just taking blind decisions. So I can attest to the fact that if you're working without data, if you're working without measuring anything, it's like one who is, boxing in the dark, and you don't have enough light to navigate with ease. So what I'm going to be doing next is to follow up on the conversation that Omolara started, especially where she mentioned the importance of having an accountability partner. But before you even get an accountability partner, you really want to know what it is that you want to measure. There are several critical business venture building metrics that exist out there, but we know that not everything applies to the Nigerian context because of where we are, the economic uniqueness that we have as a nation, the demography, the nature of business, infrastructure, access to technology, and access to infrastructure that also powers that technology, and a whole lot of things. So I'll be running through some of our. Just a moment, guys. Okay, I'll be running through some of the metrics that we have identified. We call them our own hot takes on the kind of metrics that we think that you should pay attention to. We'll talk about 7 of them. Of course, we encourage that you pick your top 3 of all these metrics and then focus on them. They are all related in one way or the other. For instance, if you grow your revenue, it means you've grown your customer base. It may mean, not necessarily absolutely, but it may mean that you've done something well as regards your customer retention or bringing down your customer acquisition cost that then leads to profitability or revenue. Right, so let's start with revenue. Just in 10 seconds each, I'll run through each of the matrices that we have identified. The indicators to measure when it comes to revenue growth is really month on month recurring revenue, meaning how much are you making. We're not talking whether you're profitable or not. We're not talking about your expenses. We're not talking whether it's just pure gross revenue, right? And what you want to do with your revenue is that you want to grow it. Nobody wants goes into the new year to say, "Oh, this year the revenue I have heard is too much. I want to reduce it." If you're such a person, I would love to meet you personally, to so that you can cut soap for me, like we say in Lagos. Right. So the actionable step that you must do to ensure revenue growth is really looking at your sales strategy, looking at your offerings to optimize or enhance them, and then maybe even expanding your horizon in terms of the market. You also want to look at your average revenue per customer. Can you make more from the existing customers that you make without ripping them off? All right. Another key metrics that we think is important and very applicable to the Nigerian um, ecosystem is how much it takes for you to acquire a new customer. It's called customer acquisition cost. All right, and the key metric, the key indicators that you want to then measure is how much you're actually spending, especially on a month on month or a quarter by quarter, in terms of your marketing, your sales, which includes your ads, and if you have business development people who are along with you. You also want to look at the number of new customers that are coming in. We're not mentioning, we are going to talk about churn, but how many new customers are coming in is critical to measure. And then we also would like to look at your CAC ratio, which really talk about your CAC divided by your average revenue per unit. That's per customer. That's your ARPU. Third is your customer lifetime value, meaning how much can you make from one customer over time before that customer is done with you. What we're really looking at measuring there is the average purchase value. So, how much for each, if you're dealing with product for your product, if you're dealing with services for your service, frequency of purchase as well. How frequently do they come to you back? Is it once a month? Is it every day? Is it morning, afternoon, night? And then the lifespan. How long are they with you till they graduate from your services? If you're running a primary school, for instance, you know that the average will be 6 years, right, from primary one to primary six. So after primary six, you cannot have that same child as your customer again, except you open a secondary school. Right, that's a funny example. But this is actually very, very interesting because the importance is it looked at the profitability per customer. How are you? It breaks it down to units, so you even know where you are if you're doing well, and it can help you determine your price point. The fourth is churn, quite similar to, not similar, but relatable to your cost of customer acquisition. That's your customer acquisition cost, right? Because this time around, we're looking at the customers that leave you, right? It's for good reasons, whether they're done with you or for bad reasons. You want to measure your churn rate and to see what's going on and to see how and what it is that you can do about maintaining your customers so you can get maximized value for every CAC that you have spent in getting them in, right? Next is your burn rate and your cash runway. The simplest way that I love to, define the runway is just the word runway itself. For the plane to get off the runway and get in air, it requires some space on land for it to run and gather speed and momentum. If the runway is too short, that plane will never lift up. It's most likely going to crash, right? So you need enough cash to ensure that your business is able to go forward, then to lift up. So lift off here can be when your revenue becomes steady, when your revenue climbs enough to then your break even can be that lift up. So the indicators you want to measure here are your monthly operational expenses, comparing with the cash in hand or cash in bank and your receivables. For those who are accountants, you get that your total cash reserves, meaning that's what I meant by cash in hand or cash in bank or receivables. Then you also want to look at your burn rates in terms of not just your operating expenses, now your total expenses. And then if you divide that, you can also have an indicator called your cash run rate that just lets you know how much more months you have with the cash you have in hand before the plane crashes. It's a very critical matrix to measure. Another, which is very important for the Nigerian ecosystem, is your operational efficiency metrics. How are you handling your operations? And you really need to look at this because it allows you to think about how to optimize productivity and then reduce your expenses. Key indicator is your employability, your employee productivity rate. We have to find very unique and ingenious way of measuring that. You want to look at your process cycles, the time for your process, and maybe how long from when a customer talks to you the first time to when they get, what is that time you keep measuring, and so that you can improve on it. Your resource utilization rate, looking at the tools that you're getting for your system, maybe digital tools or even physical machinery. You want to look at how you're optimizing them. Maybe you need to lease some of your machinery for 50% of the time for another business rather than keeping them idle. But you need to look at, and all of this is very dependent and different from business to business. And the final, which is interesting for me from a marketing strategy point of view, is your marketing penetration and your user engagement. Two different, but we match them as one of our metrics speak here. What we are looking at from the bird's eye view, we're looking at your market share percentage. Of course, that may be a very big one to measure and require a lot of resources to actually measure. But more importantly, you can look at your own internal daily active users, your monthly active users, and then your retention rate. Quite related to your churn again, but this time around, how many people are on job. If you have a tech platform, for instance, how many people are on that platform and keep using it? How many of them are opening it? How many of them actually use it? So the active user is different from your passive users that that have registered on your platform but have not paid, or maybe they're using your freemium plan. They're taking advantages of your promo, but they've not turned to paying customers. Now, the reason why we look at all of these seven that we've talked about right now is just to help you. We believe that if you pay attention to the top three that you think, based on your goals, you've done most of what Molara has mentioned. You have looked at your 80-20%. You've looked at what is really generating your 80%, and you want to streamline and work on that. Now, the metrics that then fit those 80 is then that 80%, that thing that gives you 80%, then what you want to also focus more attention on. So don't give it the 20% attention, give it the 80% attention. Is what we're trying to say here. So once you identify these matrices, you need an accountability system. You need someone somehow to keep you on track. I'll repeat what Omolara also said, to say that it's very possible as entrepreneurs to get focused and sucked in to business, into day to day, into the excitement, into the highs and the lows, the wins, the loses. It's so easy to get lost in that you forget the matrices that you've set at the beginning of the year, only for 2025 December to end again and you start looking back. So you need a system that helps you check, either preferably on a monthly basis, maybe on a quarterly basis. If you have a board, if you have an advisory board, it will be good to engage. But we realize that not every entrepreneur does this. Is the reason why at 8 Gear we created what we call the 8 Gear Collective. It's a community of people, it's a builders collective that allows you to work with us to identify three key matrices that you can work with, and then together we can track on a month-on-month basis, and you can get that report back to you. This is not running your business for you. This is not taking business decisions for you, but it's really about understanding how you want to run, what you want to measure, working with you to clarify your goals. And then once those goals are clarified, we're together checking in with you. Where are you? You give us the report. You're free to lie to us. You're free to tell us that you have met your target for the year. It's fine. It's your business. If you lie to us, we give you back. Oh, you've done well. If you tell us, if you're honest with us and you're open with us and you tell us where you are, we can compare that with what your goal is and tell you this is where you are as regards your goal. And then it gives you that positive peer pressure, that peer pressure that pushes you to perform as the CEO or as the business manager for your business. We are also in the midst open to giving you access to one-on-one consultation time with any of our EIRs, Omolara Garba being one of our top EIRs, that you can then have the attention for customized time to listen to you and to break down some of the challenges, ask you critical probing questions that will help you think in a unique way about what it is that you're doing, and then you can clarify those goals. Even the fact that you set a goal at the beginning of 2025 does not mean that by March, by June, looking at the business environment, looking at your customers' ever changing taste buds, to come back and say something is off here. We need to tweet, we need to tweak this goal. We need to change direction here and there. And then it's good to have someone to bounce this off so that you can then take the right decision. So we have this available. If you're interested, please scan the QR code. We will keep this QR code for a while, even after we're done with this stream, so that you can have access to it. Scan the QR code and then you be in. We have a free community, as you may be seeing right here on the screen right now, that you can also join. But whether it's the free community, whether it's the builders community, whether you just want to have a conversation with any of our entrepreneurs and residents who can bring their wealth of experience to bear in conversing with you and helping you clarify your goals, we will be happy to have you. So all you need to do is to is to scan this QR code, or you can go to linktree/8gearhub. That's the popular linktree/8gearhub. Once you get on it, click on the Builders Collective and put in your details. We will reach out to you within maximum of 24 hours. That's our own, operational efficiency that we track there, right? So we're going to go now into question and answer, to take questions from what Lara had mentioned, and what if there's anything that has come to mind in the process of these conversations that we have had. And all you need to do to ask a question is just type in the chat box, in the chat, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on LinkedIn. We're not going to make this stream very lengthy. So in the next 5-10 minutes, we'll be out of your faces. And we can take questions. We can continue the conversation in the chat even after the live stream. But if you have questions right now is the time to put it in the chat for myself and Omolara to attend to it. We're looking at the chat board right now. We see a number of people that have joined us and have introduced themselves. We have Abdurrahman from Qatar. Thank you for joining in. We have Luatosin from Lagos. Thank you. We have Yusuf Kafaya Material of Make Pastries and more from Lagos. We have a Momi from Illuminated Services also in Lagos. All right, so based on the conversations that we have had now, we'll be glad to have questions. We're looking at the chat. But in the meanwhile, while you're thinking about your question, I have one question for Omolara, and I'm not setting you up. Is that okay?
Okay, let's have it.
All right. We have more people that quickly introduced themselves. That's Adioba from Property Eyes RE in Lagos. And we have We have Iduna also from Lagos joining us over LinkedIn. It seems that we have an average more people from LinkedIn than on YouTube. Please keep your please drop your questions so we can see them. We can bring it upstream and then discuss. All right. So, Olara, for my question for you will be on the 80-20 Pareto principle. For anybody who is looking at their business operations and are looking at what has actually worked in 2024, and they find out that, okay, 20% of our effort in this yielded 80% result, and the remaining 80% of our effort yielded 20%. Of course, this is all approximations, right? Are you indicating that we should completely drop the 20% that is not working? Whatever it is that is giving us 20% result, even though it's 80% of our effort that is getting into that 20% result. Are you advocating that we then do not focus on that 20% to take it off our business? If it's a product, to remove the product? Because I know a school of thought that will then argue that if you then find that stuff that is working, ignore the one that is working and then focus on the one that is not working so that you can get it to work better. I'd like to just have your point of view from that. Latifa from Lagos, we see you. We're waiting for your questions regarding measuring critical business growth goals and metrics for 2025. Uh, Lara?
Thank you for that question. I think in my last few years, I get that question all the time when I talk about 80-20. So people ask me and say, oh, should we trash everything about the 80% activities that just generating 20% for us? So the critical thing is, in my experience in SME clinics, advisory services, I've noticed that a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners focus on 80% that is generating 20% without knowing. Okay, let me give you an example. I was consulting for a business in the health sector, and they were making a whole lot of money. But because the financial aspect of the revenue for the business owner was overwhelming for him, he's not a financial person. So he was concentrating on other things. So what we then discovered was he was concentrating on other things because he didn't like that aspect of financial discussion. That was just the reason. Meanwhile, the other things that are 80% activity that's giving less, he was pushing all his energy into that. And then he was hitting a brick wall at all the time. So my answer will be in two ways. Don't neglect the 80% activities. What you need to do is to divide them into future years and delegate. So divide those activities, because some of the 80% activities that's not generating much for you now may generate more for you in 5 years, in 10 years. So find a way to delegate and look at them once in a while. While the ones that are generating 80% of revenue and customers for you should be your high impact project, should be where all your activity should be at the present moment. So don't delegate that high impact activity to somebody else, because if it's generating 80% for you, the moment you delegate, you start losing money because your eyes is not on it. Your focus is not there. I hope I was able to answer your question. That's just my
Yes,
take on
yes,
it.
yes, you did. Yes, you did, and I can summarize that to say that if you then have, okay, I can relate it to something I also learned recently, that one of the ways to do a whole lot, the only way actually to be in several places at the same time, is really to delegate. So it means that as a business manager, or as a founder, or as the CEO of a venture, you want to look at those critical areas that are working and put in more effort, and then you want to find ways to delegate. Um, you need to find ways to then delegate when there are other things that are generating 20% but taking 80% of your effort. Delegate and then watch to see how it grows, see how it performs. And then if it moves to generating 80% results, then you can then bring it back under your focus and then manage. And so that's one of the basic things that I've heard from your answer, based on what I also understand. So we have one question here from Stephen Jobs. Stephen says that our metrics is to be our metrics is to be measured the same across industry sectors, or business nature specific. Do you want to have a go at that, or do I? Uh,
I think you should have a go at that.
okay, I'll take it. All right. So for business metrics, it's best. There is never an almighty formula for businesses. It varies from sector to sector. In fact, it varies first and foremost from if you're producing products versus if you're offering services. The matrices you're measuring is first even different. For products, the different type of products have different life cycle. There is products that have low shelf life, for instance, like food products. There is products that have long shelves. There are products that are very large, like big machinery. Like I want to sell a tractor, or I want to sell a jet, a private jet. You can't compare the metrics of a business that's selling a private jet with a business that sells pencil. The kind of metrics that they want to measure, their mindset to approaching, and the kind of market is even different, right? That's even within the same, whether we're doing products or services. Different sectors have different nuances. They have different advantage of being in that sector, or disadvantage. They have different regulation, or the intensity of regulation. Some are completely deregulated, some are heavily regulated. So every business will need to. So in our builders collective, for instance, we will never say that, oh, all the businesses that we're working with, these are the matrices that you must use. No. What we've done is to, and for us to engage everyone, what we're going to do is to have another closed session, and not this public live session, a closed session where you see that we jumped over a number of things in those slides. We will then break it down so you understand each of these matrices. There's some that we may not even mention, but you, second nature, because you run your business, you know that this thing is important. We will take it. But the most important thing is that at the end of the day, that matrix, we have to turn it into something smart, measurable. It has to have a number, something that if you pass it, we don't need to start thinking too much about it. If you surpass it, we know. If you're below it, and we also would then support with things around what you can do around meeting up. That's the reason why some of this conversation we foresee will lead into requiring one-on-one sessions, where we are then able to pay detailed attention to the uniqueness of your business, of your sector, of your industry, possibly even with subject matter experts that fit whatever challenge that you then have, and then deal with it then. But there's no one size fit all metrics for any business to measure. In fact, the biggest is then to look at incubators like Y Combinator, and markets like the US market, Canadian or the UK market, and then look at the matrices that startups or tech MSMEs in those clients are measuring, and then assume that you can just measure the same here. That would be folly. That would be big. a big mistake to be made. So we need to look at what exactly are your goals, and that's where it starts from. What's your strategy? What's your goal? Uh, what are you looking at? And then we now need to start looking at what are the indicators that ensures that you're on the right path towards your destination, right? If you're going from Lagos to Ibadan, there are certain milestones, or what's it called now? Important places. There's a name they call it, that you know that it's a landmark, a landmark point that you know. Oh, we've passed this. Oh, we've passed it. We are getting closer to our goal. Oh, haven't we gotten here? Oh, we've not passed it. We still have a long journey ahead. Those milestones are the things that we want. We need you to. We want entrepreneurs that we're working with to be able to measure and pay attention to. We hope that I hope that answers that question. And I don't know if Ola, you want to add one or two things to what I've said.
In order not to overflog that, let me just add that once as a business owner, you can identify your KPI, your key performance indicators, then your metrics will just be a walkover. So your key performance indicators cannot be the same with another business sector. In fact, it cannot even be the same business with another business in the same sector. You can be running a fashion business and another person is running a fashion business. You'll be surprised that your KPIs will be different. So let that be your benchmark. Once you're able to identify your KPI, then you have what would I call it? A tailored or bespoke business metrics that work for you. So there is really no one size fits all, like Dami said. I hope that answers your question.
I hope that we don't want to make this long, so that next time when we call you to come on stream, you're happy to join us and to get value for your time. In the absence of no other question here. By the way, if you still do have your questions, please drop them. Even while we're offline, while we're off this live stream, we will come back to that chat and let's continue the conversations in the chat. I will ensure that the QR code, if you are interested, the QR code to join the Builders Collective will be back on your screen, so you can scan it before we leave. So I want to take the opportunity to say a very big thank you to Omolara Garba for agreeing to do this with me today. It was a pleasure, always a pleasure, and a delight conversing with you. Um, I know we still have that debate about the construct Nigeria as a whole, and believing believing in the Nigerian dream,
Dami, don't.
regardless.
Dami,
No,
don't.
no, yeah. No, no, no. We have to encourage every entrepreneur who is watching this live stream right now and doing business in Nigeria. This is it for you. This is it. Like this, one, two for you alone. This is it, because we've had this conversation. We know that you are the real G. You are the real deal,
I
and
agree
you're the
with you.
one that is actually keeping this engine, regardless of your definition for what the construct is. This engine running and moving. We appreciate you, and the reason why we do what we're doing is because we want to support you. We want to keep you going. So thank you, Molara. Damilola, thank you very much for coming. And to everyone who has listened in, who started the beginning of this stream to the end, for anybody who will be watching after we are offline, thank you for taking your time to listen in. We look forward to having you in the comment section once again. We look forward to having you in our form from the QR code on screen on Linktree. And until we come your way again, thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Want to know. Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everything.
This is Damilola Obidairo. Damilola believes digital technology can give small businesses a huge advantage in a world where everything is online. That's why we partner with him to help small business owners build capacity in digital technology to bridge the gap between capabilities and opportunities. Damilola is not alone in this mission. This is not just Damilola's story. It's the story of millions of Nigerian small business owners striving for a big break. And the EU is here to make it happen. This is Damilola.